Okay, I'm ready to make a new bowl. It's going to have turquoise lines running through a feature ring. I picked out this piece of sapele. I think it has an interesting grain pattern and it'll contrast well with turquoise. I'm going to glue it down to the CNC table. So I am trying out this new microphone that I got. A friend of mine told me I needed a microphone. So this one's for you, Wally. Sections are cut. It'll make a total of 16 segments, but my next step will be to clean all this out and then pour epoxy in. So I've got the epoxy pour done on both of these, and I'm ready to cut segments. I've got the chop saw set for 11 1/4 degrees, as close as I can. And I made some marks at the center of each of these so I could measure. And I have put a line on the right side of every segment, and I've got it on the left side of just this one that I'll use for setting the stop block. I am lined up. I'll show one cut and then show move, and then it's going to be the same process for every segment. So that is just the right side of the segment. I still need to cut the left side, but I'm going to do those all together. I'm going to cut the right side of every one of the segments first. So I have this stop block set up to cut the left side of all the segments. I've got the line drawn on this one, and the blade will cut just outside that line, which is where I want it. I have this scrap piece. I'll show that when I pull it apart, but I'll show one cut and then switching. So what I found is the two halves align really well. So it's one board, and they all line up really perfectly. But when you get around to where the other board is, because it's a little bit different height, or my zero on the CNC was a little bit one side or the other, to get them to line up, I had to tape a piece of a popsicle stick on the bottom of each piece, and with that they line up perfectly. So now everything's lined up, and I'll go ahead and glue it up. So I won't show the glue up, but I just wanted to show that. So this is the glued up feature ring, and it needs to be flattened to put it on the bowl. I left the popsicle sticks on the bottom because that made it for a level base, and this side needs less removed. So this will be the part I attach to the base, the bottom. So I'm going to try some turning at low speed. I've got it in the cold jaws, and I've got these pretty good grippers on it that came from Vicmark with their jaws. So I'm going to try turning it. I've just sharpened my round nose scraper, and I'm going to try that. Well, it's pretty close to flat now. I'm going to finish it off with a sanding board. Steve Bonney of the AAW Segmented Chapter posted a technical brief on doing a star bottom, and I'm going to try that on this turquoise line bowl. This is the lamination I need. I have purpleheart, maple, and sapele, and I needed 2 of them to get the length I need to get all the things. I'm going to try to do them all at once. I am cutting the initial pieces for the star bottom, and they're on a 45-degree angle. So I have this clamp set to hold it and this stop block to set my length. So the next step in making the star is gluing the two halves together and making sure everything's as good aligned as possible. After cutting these on the miter saw, I did disc sand the two halves so that I got a better joint. But right now I'm going to put them together with quick and thick. Well, I have all my points cut. I have 8 of these and I need 6, but I'm now cutting the 30-degree angle now that I have a hold down clamp on a sled. It's very tight. So I'm aligning them so it just leaves a little bit of the point, and cut both of them. I'll show both cuts. So now that I have the two sides glued together, I just need to do a little bit of disc sanding to get the two halves perfectly lined up. Okay, I can't see light through it anymore, so that's going to be my bottom. I am going to try resawing this into two halves before I glue it up. Now that I have the bottoms, or the bottom made for one and a spare, along with the feature ring completed and flattened and ready, I need to build the rest of the bowl. So I need to cut segments. I will show some segment cutting for the first ring, but I'm not going to talk about it. I'll just. So I drum sanded both the bottom ring and the disc, cut out a circle and ran it around my disc sander. Then I laser etched it on my CNC here and applied some friction polish, but I sanded these two spots to be glued, which I'm now going to glue into this. Okay, so I have the floating ring or floating disc inserted into the base and glued in. I have a faceplate flattened, and I have a piece of wood that's big enough to go around this that I'm going to sandwich in the middle. So I'm going to try to glue them together by sandwiching kind of like that. So I have these purple heart rings that I'm going to add for accent, and to even better the accent, I want to get a even thinner stripe of maple on either side of it. These are too thin to really cut rings and glue them together. So I have taped 4 of these pieces together, and I'm going to cut 16 segments, so it'll only be 4 cuts to make one for each side of this ring. I'll show a little bit of it. So these are the rings I put together, and I taped them together. They're not glued at this point. Um, and any joints that look a little loose, you just tighten them up before you glue up. I have the sapele and the maple laminated on this side, which you can't see real well. But on this side, I've got Johnson paste wax on the inside, because I do not want this to stick to that. and I've got glue just on that outer rim. So I'm going to bring it up. I've already checked the fit, and I'm going to bring it up, and I'm just going to rotate it a little bit after I get it up there, just to get the alignment right. So yesterday I got the first couple of rings on, and I'll go ahead and do a little turning on this, mainly just focus on getting the outside round and maybe the transition. But my main focus for today will be getting the next two rings on. I have to get these flattened and reduced in height a bit. Yesterday I got the next two rings on, so it's really starting to take shape. The next ring will be this ring with purple heart and maple on both sides. I need to drum sand it. Then the feature ring. And that's my goal for today. So now I have the bowl almost all assembled. I got the two more rings to go on top. I'm going to start on turning the outside. I won't put that on the video, but when I get to the inside turning, I'll show a little bit of that. So I turned enough off the inside to expose the turquoise lines. The inside is pretty well turned to a finished state, needs to be sanded yet. But the outside still has to, it's roughed out. There's about a ½ inch wall everywhere. So I've got plenty of room to work on the outside and get the form I want. So the bowl is fully assembled at this point. So my goal for today is to finish turning and get on to the sanding and potentially put some finish on. So the turning and the sanding is complete. I'm ready to put on some friction polish. I'll show a little bit of it. So I will apply a second coat of the friction polish and then let it cure overnight and put carnauba wax on it and cut it off and finish the bottom. So the next scene you will see will be a finished bowl.